And hello and welcome to another episode of A Life in Motion podcast. This is season one, Awakening. We're just starting, but already part two, where we are talking about career development, the tools, platforms, ideas, questions that we can embrace in order to develop our professional careers and maybe even our personal lives in the way in or towards the dreams that we have for ourselves. And for today, this is the 12th episode. We are going to talk about curiosity. Now, curiosity is a very interesting theme, and I have so many questions myself. And I have so many questions myself about curiosity that I couldn't refrain but bring three of the most brilliant people I have met online and LinkedIn, and that I feel have so much to say and to contribute to the discussion, helping all of us to elevate and maybe becoming more curious. To start with the round of introductions, I would love to bring Pinar into the stage. Hello, Pinar. Good morning. And would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Thank you. Good morning, Eduardo. Good morning, everyone. Pleasure to be here. I'm Pinar Venerberg. I'm a computer scientist. I have a global leadership role in a corporate setting. I'm a coach, I'm a writer, and I'm a dancer at the same time. I spent many years in AI research and global leadership roles, and so everything very much head driven, mind driven. And after a long while, I rediscovered dance to connect with myself. I call it connecting with my true self, with my truth. And on this journey, I have learned a lot. And now as a coach and also in my role as a leader, and as a writer, I'm sharing all my learnings and insights with my fellow humans. And I hope to be of service in any kind of life transitions, including career and elsewhere. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Pinar. And it's not the first time that you are with us, so I'm especially thankful to you. I am very curious to ask how this curiosity is working in the intersection of dancing and writing and being a tech leader in a global corporate, in a global organization. That is so much to unpack that. Thank you so much for being with us. Next, I would move to John and ask you, John, again, thank you so much for being here with us to introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, as name says down there, John Todorovic. I've been helping individuals and groups with coaching. Over the years, I've realized that every time I shared some of the knowledge with people, whether I was in construction industry or hospitality, there were always questions. And the more questions they asked me, the more I realized that I can utilize that and help myself to help others. I've spent probably about 10, 12 years in the corporate setting, which didn't suit me. And I was looking for greener pastures and discovered that they don't exist. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, the way you're doing, you can just move and figure out where you fit. As Pinar mentioned earlier, you can rediscover yourself in many ways. And one thing that I realized is that coaching actually helps me use this specific trait that became a skill, which is curiosity. And with that, I am actually helping senior managers and executives through executive coaching. It's just awesome to be here again. By the way, Eduardo, well done on all the sessions. So
Thank you so much, John. Yes, you are also here, not for the first time, which makes things very easy for me. Thank you so much for helping and supporting with the organization and for all the flexibility. What I heard from you, and I don't want to tease it too much right now. You said a trait and then a skill. I'm curious to know what is it, a trait or skill, both or something else. So you already get all of us very curious. And Annika, last but not least, I would love to get you to introduce yourself to the audience here.
Yes, good morning from Sweden, where I am. My name is Annika Molin. I work with leadership training and coaching, and agree with John that curiosity is really something super helpful to help others get to know themselves and find their answers. So that's also why I'm looking forward to be here. I support teams. I support support individuals. My heart beat a little bit extra for supporting women in leadership, and in particular women that has a little bit of a good girl flavor, a good girl history in them, and that might need help in breaking free from those patterns to sort of step into their full selves. I come from a corporate background. I've spent 25 years working with communication and leadership, mainly at IKEA, the big furniture retailer. But a couple of years ago, I got curious about something else. So here I am outside the corporate life. As Pinar, I also work with my body. I am a body pump instructor, and I think it's a fantastic way to complement the more heady work with something for for the other parts. So that's me, and thanks for having me as a newbie here, Eduardo.
Well, a newbie here in terms of this podcast, but definitely not a newbie when it comes to curiosity. And there's so many things that you have done in your professional life and personal life because you shared very openly on LinkedIn. That's how we connected. And it always made me really wish, and now the wish is granted to have you here together with us, participating on a live discussion and seeing where this would take us. I am so very grateful that it has worked with you also this time, and that you already started our session adding a little bit of something different with different colors and not the same backgrounds as all of us. So I already take that as an inspiration into being curious and sparkling conversations. I want to do two things out of the ordinary here because this is all about curiosity. First, I want to introduce a member that is not here. Nikki, unfortunately, couldn't join us because of tech issues. The tech demons this week have been attacking us very ferociously. And yet, Nikki, if you're hearing us, I feel your presence. I know that you're here with us and you have been such a strong supporter from such a very long time. So thank you so much, my friend, for trying your best and always being there for us. And the second thing is, Pinar mentioned about the dance, and Annika, you mentioned about body pump, and that's both serious physical stuff. John, are you a kickboxer? You're on mute. Maybe you want to
From
get.
my end, from my end, I spent years playing basketball, and I discovered other things along the way, such as gym and mobility exercises. Because as we age, our body needs more care, more careful care. So I spend a lot of time doing stretching and mobility exercises nowadays. But I do some handiwork, and that's probably another story for another session. I love woodworking, so that helps me also stay in shape in a different way.
Love that, John. And I was asking because thinking about what curiosity is, the more I think about it, the more I see connections with doing things in completely different domains. And the body domain is such an important one, creating new connections, different connections, and sparkling ideas, creating opportunities through serendipity and whatnot. But since we are talking about curiosity, and I will dive straight into the skill trait conversation, John, with you, since you sparked it. I was going back to my own book and seeing how I started defining it. And that is something there that took me years, ages, maybe, to get to. I thought about curiosity at first as a personal trait, and over the years, I started thinking about it more as a skill in the sense that it can be developed. And as I continued in my investigation and trying to understand how it works to create value, to create opportunities, experiences in life, I started seeing it even more as an attitude towards life. And that's how I actually defined curiosity in my book. But that's how I did it there. I would love to start this conversation hearing from you again, John, expanding a little bit on that thought. What is curiosity for you, and how did it impact your life?
It's over the past week or so since we initially spoke about doing this session, I've been contemplating a lot about curiosity and the immense impact that it had on my life and the people around me. because of that curiosity. It started way back. I mentioned to you via message that Lego actually initiated some of my curiosity. Actually, it was a sort of a back and forth. I got into Lego because of the curiosity, but Lego also helped me develop curiosity more, which is why initially, when I was a kid, I didn't realize that curiosity is curiosity. And over the years, I just considered it a trait, something natural. So I was curious about everything. And I still remember whenever I speak to my mom about some of the early days, because now with my young kids, I'm seeing similar patterns in that curiosity. And I remember clearly asking the question, why, all the time. So everything that I was interested in, there was always a why. I wanted to know how things work. I wanted to know what things are. But the most important element there was that I wanted to know why. Why is that behaving that way? Why is this thing working that way? So now thinking about it, in the hindsight, I realized that it's a skill that can be developed with care. So the difference between the trait and the skill is also about the approach that we take towards the curiosity. And this is something that I've learned, although it's jumping from the past to the present, it's really directly related because I found so many links that are interconnected. And this is what I've learned from my mentor and master coach, Julius Ordonez from Benchmark Consulting. He was, when I was taking up the ICF training, I was learning about the fact that the difference between information gathering and genuine curiosity, where you really want to understand what's hiding behind the person's challenge, makes a huge difference. Because I also come from the training background. And as a trainer, you think more of the data gathering or how you can help people solve specific problems, but you don't necessarily go that deep to that underlying issue. Is it the people problem? Is it the skill problem? Is it the behavior problem? And that's where it ends, with genuine curiosity, where you're not just gathering information. Oh, my manager gave me a negative review. Why did it give you the negative review? And immediately your head might go into the judgmental mode. Instead of that, you revert back and you just listen and you let the person explain and share more, so that with that genuine curiosity and active listening, which is part of that curiosity, part of that, it's a supplementary skill, you will be able to develop deeper insights from the genuine curiosity standpoint. So there is a lot more that I want to share, but I think that this is something that is really core to my being and to how I approach life and work also.
Love that, John. And I want to get the active listening to a bucket right now in a little box because I want to get back to it. I think that there is a big space for it in this conversation. And I want to unpack how people understand what it is and how they can tap into that skill. I agree with you so very much that that is a skill and that can be so easily developed when we put in the intention. I was thinking about my own experiences, and I have this friend, Robin. He's also there. Thank you, Robin, for sharing that story with me and with so many people. He tells about once he was doing training. So it was facilitation, to your point, John. And he's a very energetic person. You know, he's going to get into the room and everybody's moving and he's moving and his hair is cool. It's like from out of this world. And then the room was dead. They were like, and he happens to be also a very curious person. So instead of reacting to
Now,
happen,
exactly. So yeah, I was just saying that I also find myself in what John has been sharing, and I also have been reflecting on the question of curiosity and how that has shaped me. I think the picture that is in front of my eyes is that three people have been instrumental, essential in planting curiosity in me since my childhood. And one of them is my father, the other one is my aunt, and the third person is my mother. My father, so he was a late father. I was a very young child to him, so he was old. And I was born and raised in Turkey, by the way. He literally saw through the end of the Ottoman Empire and basically the establishment of Turkish Republic. And that's a time when everything was so vibrant and people were hungry for knowledge and democracy and liberation and all of these things. So he was right into that. So he was very, very knowledgeable and very intellectual, and he was full of that passion for impact and all of that. And yeah, he basically planted that in me. Like there was nothing that he didn't know. And I started becoming curious, like, okay, how come he knows everything? I want to know everything. So I really remember this. And then my aunt, she was much younger, of course, and she was a stewardess, a flight attendant with Turkish Airlines, which means she basically traveled the world the whole time. There was no place that she didn't see, and she would come back with stories of all these exotic places. I mean, I'm a child sitting in Istanbul. I don't know anything else. And then she comes with stories from Japan, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, I don't know, and what they eat, what they wear. And I was just, oh my God, what is out there? Like, I really, I feel that curiosity, that intensity still. And the third person, my mom, she is very emotional and very rational at the same time. And she would never she never take things at face value. So as John said, she always questions like, why is that so? Why is that so? And actually at that time, it was not very typical in Turkey, I must say, or in Turkey, I must say. So she was very different in that sense. And I think they inspired me, like without knowing that I was being curious, as John said. I grew up as a curious child, looking at everything with those eyes. I want to know, oh, what is out there and why is that so? And yeah, how that shaped me is that it basically put me into an academic career in research and development. That's basically all about curiosity and experimentation and finding out. And later on, of course, like on my journey, I also started getting very curious about my body. What is present there for me? What does that mean? Yeah, and these questions basically made a lot of difference in my life.
Yes, thank you. Well, curiosity for me is about learning and experimenting, and it's also about courage. And when I look back a little bit on what curiosity have brought me, it seems that it's connected to learning new skills, discovering new thoughts, coming on to new things. And with the curiosity, I think it's connected also to being willing to take a small risk, to go somewhere where you haven't been before, to understand something new, whether it's about airline, from what you talked about, Pinar, or it's something else. But there's like an appetite for something. And that appetite is for something that is not yet known to you. And you have to have a willingness to go there to find out. And I think that's what got me into training to become a training instructor, for instance, training to become a coach. What could come from this? I don't know. Let's see. It's a path I'm curious about. I'm going to follow it and see where it takes me. It's not necessarily that you have the destination. I think rather the opposite. You might not know the destination, but there is something that sparks something in you that makes you willing to, okay, I'm going to step out here and put one foot ahead of the other and see where it might lead. And we can connect all of this to leadership and innovation and so on later if we want to. But for me and for this little part, I think it's about learning for yourself and the share of courage to take action on the appetite that actually curiosity is. And tying back to because now you mentioned your mother's, I want to do that too. She was also like a why and why not, more in a judgmental way, quite scrutinizing woman, fantastic lady. I love her, but very quick to judge things, which I think has shaped me a little bit into the opposite. Okay, but what if We don't have to form an opinion just yet. We don't need to be so quick on that. So to adapt rather an attitude. I liked how you phrased that, Eduardo, towards life. And I like to bring that in when I work with people too. Like, what attitude is more helpful for you now? Is it a curious researcher, or is it more a judge in a courtroom? Which one will open your mind more? So if my mom was more a little bit of the judge in the courtroom, I see myself more of the curious researcher, scratching the surface and daring to scratch a little bit more. So I think absolutely an overdoses of curiosity can ultimately lead to that you get nothing done, because you just go busy exploring, and what's behind that door, what can we find here? And at some point in time, at least I think in a corporate setting, probably in any setting, you would have to pick, okay, but this is what we're now going to say, okay, thanks for all the contributions here in terms of contribution. Now we're going to go execute, because I think that's at the end of the day how you get the growth. It's to, so where can this lead us? So it's what you say, like it's a coin with two sides. And this is also, I think this speaks to the value of having diverse teams and people that bring in certain things. I mean, some that are super curious and creative and courageous, and perhaps others that dare to say, okay, enough now, let's go see where this can bring us and start on the execution. And then, of course, the analysts and all of that. So to me, it speaks to the value of that. That was one of the questions. What was the other one, Eduardo? I love company values, especially when they are lived and seen and not being poster words on walls. Curiosity is absolutely a value. It can be a personal value and it can be an organizational value. And for me, for that to make sense there, is that already then from the top down, I would like to see curiosity demonstrated from top management, meaning openness to explore what we don't know yet, open to challenge assumptions, open to live with an element of uncertainty, and be fine with that we don't have all the answers now, and we also don't have to have all the answers delivered by tomorrow. So that could be a way of having it as a value and being demonstrated by asking questions and allowing space for things to unfold and for people to be curious, and not least for people to fail, because not everything that you're curious about is going to be a big win. I mean, I can sense in the atmosphere that we talk about curiosity as a fantastic trait, which I think it is. But that doesn't mean that it always leads us to the ideal and best solution right away. And if you want to have curiosity as a company value, you need to be open to failure and be okay with that.
The first thought that came to my mind the moment you read the question was, ideas are great, execution is everything. That summarizes the contradiction that we can have, especially in the organizational setting, where you can have curiosity embedded in culture. You can encourage people. You, as the owner of the company, you, as the president, as an executive, as a manager or a team, you can embody the feeling, the trait. How does it feel like to be curious and to allow the curiosity to flourish? And to the point that Annika mentioned also is, are we doing something about it? So yes, it's great to encourage curiosity. But on the other side, if I will use the word that I don't like to use, balance, sort of, let's use the word harmonize instead of balance, because there is always something that's going to give. It's impossible to balance. Like people are talking about work-life balance. You can never balance it because life is work and work is life. So in the organizational setting, curiosity should be harmonized with the expectations. So if you want to encourage people in your team, if you want to encourage people in the company to live that as a company value, a real lived value, the internal value, not something that is, like big signboard that says like, oh, curiosity, this is what we live by. No, allow people to be curious, allow them to fail. And to the point of Annika saying about courage, that really resonates deeply also, because I was always challenged with that courage. I was always curious, but I was afraid. What will happen if I try it and I don't work out? So to that point, you really need to embed the failure as a good thing, because the more you fail, the more you will prosper. I mean, in computer science, that works also. I mean, people build programs and there are other people who are trying to break it. So there's a beautiful cycle there that can really help people progress. So to summarize all that, yes, it can be organizational value with intent. So the key word there is intent. What's the purpose of you trying to encourage people to be curious? Not because you want to make more money or you want to have this productivity, manufacturing, whatever it is. It's important that there is a specific intent so that people will really understand what's in it for them. At the end of the day, the person who is doing the work will ask themselves, what's in it for me? And I think that that's the ultimate question that will bring it down. Is it really worth pursuing it? The answer is yes, by the way.
Thank you, Eduardo. So as I was listening to Annika John and yourself, like you've already spoken everything. I mean, most of the things I would have also said myself. And now maybe one thing that I can add on it as I was listening to you, what emerged for me is that curiosity is also not only about the topics, but it's also curiosity about people. I'm naturally very curious about people, like genuinely curious. I just want to know, who is this person in front of me? Who is this person whom I'm reporting to? Who is this person who is reporting to me? And really, like, behind the roles, who is this person actually really, like, what does she like? What does he fear? What are his or what are their values? Yeah, emotions and thoughts and principles, anything basically. And I catch myself becoming very observing basically about, yeah, anything about their body, anything about their energy and all of that. And I think when we become genuinely curious about people who we are working with in the organizational environment, we get so much insights on about what we wouldn't get otherwise, like just paying attention to what they are saying, for example. And there's a huge opportunity there because then we start seeing people for who they are and not for what they do. And that that's in my opinion what makes organizations very strong. Because, I mean, the organization is an abstract thing, right? We have this building and then we have a collection of people and then we say it like it's an organization. Actually, what makes the organization is the people there, because we people also define what the organization wants to achieve, the mission, the value, and all of that. So if we take people out of the game, then actually not much is left. That's why for me it's crucial to also become curious about the people genuinely. Now, to the question of when it can become too much, one thing is, again, like obviously becoming curious about people, but not in an inquisitive way, like always very respectful, right? So always paying respect to the limits of the person and also myself. And also, yeah, accepting each other just the way we are. So basically, staying away from judgment, if I come back to what Annika was saying at the beginning of our conversation. And then when it become too much, like I mean, it has been a learning journey for myself as well, because obviously as I was curious and curious and as I learned more and more and more, then I mean, as we keep learning and knowing more, then actually there's a fine line to the place where we become a little bit of a know-it-all person. I know so much that I know it all. And then that's where basically the curiosity starts losing its space. And that's something that I had to, especially as a researcher, that's something that in my role as a researcher, like I really had to pay attention to, okay, like I know, I mean, these are all the facts that I have in my collection, in my mind, but it really doesn't say that I know everything, right? Yeah, that came with the age. So just to sum it up, I think what I want to say is that For me, curiosity is in an organization is also about curiosity about people. And it's also about like reflecting and looking at ourselves and not becoming the know-it-all person.
What active listening isn't is that you're sitting in front of a person and listen to that person. That's not active listening. So yes, the activity of you sitting in front of one or multiple people and listening is not an actual active listening. Active listening, again, it's an abstract thought. There are many different definitions out there. The way I interpret active listening is that you are understanding what the person is saying and you're just absorbing it without judgment. Again, it goes back to the beginning and Pinar mentioning, and even Annika, about judgmental part of the curiosity. So the crucial element in active listening is that you are not judging anything that is coming into your ears. When you're interpreting the information that's coming in, you're listening it for understanding and not for responding back. That's also another thing that I've learned over the years. People tend to, I cannot remember who actually originally said it, Dale Carnegie maybe, that people don't listen with the intent to understand, they listen with the intent to respond. That's again opposite of the active listening. That's just you are hearing and you just let the person speak and then you're just waiting for your turn to speak up your mind. But there is the secondary level. Actually, that's the tertiary because you have listening, active listening. And then the third one, which is really important and very helpful in coaching, is global listening. And that is listening to what's not being said. It's a skill that is acquired through practice. It can be acquired. So you can start with active listening by just asking a simple question and really trying to understand where that person is coming from. What are their thoughts without judging. So the moment they start speaking, our minds are automatically prone to judgment. Like, why is this person saying this? Are they just trying to vent out? Are they trying to seek help? Are they trying to get advice? So what is really happening there? But the other element that I mentioned, the global listening, is often people reveal certain things. They leave clues when they speak up about something. So what's not being said? How did they say it? It's much harder when you're in a virtual environment, but again, it's a skill that you can practice, especially in coaching. When you're in person, one-on-one coaching, and when you see that person, you can see the way they sit, the way they breathe, the way they speak about certain things. That's where really global listening comes in. And curiosity is a crucial element there. You might wonder, without judgment, again, judgment must not be present. I almost never use the word must, but in this case, must not be present because the way you position yourself in that situation is just an advice giver. The moment you start judging, you want to give advice and you want to tell the person what to do next. Instead, listen to them, observe what they're doing, how they're doing it. At the end of the day, why are they actually telling you that? I still ask myself whenever I'm with different clients, and I have a variety of clients, mostly expats here in the Philippines. But the whole point behind it is, why are they telling me that? Why didn't they tell that to someone else? And it's the safe environment. I think the key there is the environment being safe to open up for that global listening and for the curiosity. So when you create a safe environment, whether for an individual, for a group, going back to the curiosity as an organizational value, the more you create that safe environment for people to explore, the more they will be willing and courageous enough to open up and to share, where you can use the active listening and then eventually the global listening.
I would like to tie my offer or my gift onto what John talked about on active and global listening. There is no judgment, as John said, and a tool that I like is to just articulate what's going on. So this is what you can do if you're curious. I mean, articulate what's going on, what you're seeing. Like, I see that you're shrugging, or your eyes are shining, sparkling when you talk about that. What's happening? That's the way of inviting more curiosity into a conversation and into more curiosity about a person. And that could also be around a topic that person is exploring. So that's, yeah, That's a suggestion for me. Articulate what you see, like you said also with the example in the beginning, but with Robin. What's going on here? What's happening? He was articulating what was going on, and look what came from that.
When I think of curiosity, I always think of this looking at the world through a child's eyes. Basically, this world full of awe and wonder, and a child like exploring. Everything is so great. Everything is so unknown, and I want to know this and I want to know that. So for me, that's the most natural state of curiosity. And whenever I find myself distracted from that, from being curious or going into the judgmental mode, I try to remember that. And I try to come back to me as a child, basically, and see, how would I look at this world, this person now, if I was a child? Because world is wonderful, children are wonderful, people are wonderful. And that really sets me back to this freedom and being explorative. And that's been easy for me to do, just to come back to that childish stage. So maybe that's one thing that I want to offer for everyone to practice and see what comes up.
Well, it's a mix of two very distinct skills. I have young kids, 6 and 2, and I am seeing the world again as a child. Tying back to what Pinar said, that's one element. And then the other element ties into what Annika mentioned, and that is something that I learned from a master coach, Marsha Reynolds, who wrote an awesome book, Coach the Person, Not the Problem, where she introduces reflective inquiry. And these two really tie together because seeing the world through child's eyes, they are seeing things most of the time, especially at a young age, for the first time. And as Pinar said, everything is so wonderful. So they're not judging anything. They're just like, what is this? And what is this? And why is this? And why is that? It ties back to the point of reflective inquiry, where you are actually absorbing everything that the person is saying and reflecting it back to them with genuine curiosity, where that inquiry becomes a catalyst for curiosity. So you want to know, why are they saying that, but not in a judgmental way. So when you ask a specific question, you can repeat the context back to the person from your understanding and then ask a follow-up question. And you can do that to help others, but you can also get others to help you. So if you're seeking feedback, for example, you can use a simple question that what is the one thing that I can improve this week? If you're a manager, for example, if you're an executive, and if you have courage to ask your people, your peers, your direct reports, what is the one thing you can improve this week? Be very specific within the time frame that you want to improve, and then listen to them. But again, use the global listening to understand what they're actually saying, because often our direct reports will not open up fully. So you need to listen to what they're not saying when they share these things to you. And that will make them feel how curious you are about how you can improve, which will then enable them to have more courage to ask more questions, to be more curious, to develop more skills, to fail more. And it's okay to fail. So the more you encourage people to do things like that, the more they will be willing to be curious without fear of repercussions. I don't know, why do we still have to discuss that, and why do organizations still instill that kind of fear when we can live so much better? Everybody can live so much better if we were just genuinely curious.
Thank you, Eduardo. So I think the easiest way would be to connect with me over LinkedIn, or I also have a personal website which covers everything about my coaching and how I'm coaching, which is literally my name, pinarvenerberg.me, or just Google it up. And lastly, Eduardo knows this, I've been working on publishing my book, which is actually coming out these days. Thank you. And that would be another way for us to stay connected as well. And I'm really excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being.
So I'm on LinkedIn, sharing thoughts and insights and an occasional challenge or two about grounded leadership and about how to break free from the good girl patterns is what I mostly write about there. you're more curious about that, I have a newsletter, the Bad Good Girl newsletter, and you can subscribe to that from the LinkedIn page. I do individual coaching. I do coaching programs, and I also do small challenges around boundary settings, like 2 weeks of practicing and becoming stronger and more confident in expressing and holding boundaries. The next one is due up in January. Also in January, let's see now when this episode airs, but on January 6th, I will do my yearly free online workshop about designing the next year. So it's a workshop, 90 minutes, where you will design and craft your personal roadmap for the year to come. So that's a few things that I'm busy with. Yeah, but let's see about the timing. But LinkedIn is the best way to find me and connect with me. Yellow background, very often a blue shirt. My website is in Swedish, but it is Grow You Swede.
The best way, again, LinkedIn really is one of the, still, regardless of the downsides, one of the best professional platforms on LinkedIn. John Todorovic, there may be only 2 or 3 of us, but this face is recognizable. You can see me occasionally now, much less, posting about certain topics that we discussed here. So if you're curious to know how I work, you can connect with me on LinkedIn, send me a connection request, send me a message. No obligations, no commitments or anything that will be expecting you. In case that you do want to make a commitment, you can book a discovery call. That's on calendly.com/John Todorovic, very easy, or you can click the link in my profile. And again, no commitments there. It's just a 45-minute talk where I use the skills that I discussed today, and then we can see if we can work together. Looking forward to seeing everybody.